Good evening and welcome to installment 15 of the 19-part series this month for admitted student programming, virtual student admissions program panels. I'm your host. My name is Chris O'Brien, Associate Director of Admissions and Advisor to the Student Admissions Program. If you've watched any of these virtual panels that we've done this month, we've been highlighting different parts of life at Boston College. And it's not just me talking about it or me showing a PowerPoint of statistics and that's growth. Like, who wants that? What we're here to highlight is the student experience and the student admissions program, which is the largest of the volunteer organizations on our campus, which has students like this that, even though they're in various parts of the world, have volunteered a little bit of their time to talk to the students that are going to comprise the class of 2024. Can you believe it? The class of 2024. Tonight, our focus is the Carroll School of Management, the largest of the three professional schools at Boston College, commonly known as the business school at Boston College. What we hope to do tonight is hear from students about their search for a business program and how they ended up at Boston College, how they've chosen concentrations and how those are different than majors. What are some of the requirements in the business school, Carroll School of Management? What are some of the advising options that students have? What are some of the clubs that are devoted to the study of business at Boston College? What are professional opportunities, and so on? If you have questions, you're free to send them along. We'll try to get to them, especially if they're very connected to the Carroll School of Management tonight, or anything that our panelists said during our conversation. Just use the Q&A option that's here on the Zoom platform. So, panelists, it's great to see you. We miss you all in Devlin Hall. Normally, we'd all be welcoming you, and we'd have a charming campus around us and a lot of warmth. Hopefully, that comes through, even though we're using technology. Let's introduce ourselves. And an introduction will be who we are, Boston accent if you have one, who we are, where you're from, obviously what division you're in, but particularly what concentrations you have. And then we want to know why you chose those concentrations. So if you're accounting, why accounting? If you're business analytics, why business analytics? So make sure you tell us who you are, where you're from, what year you are, then your concentration, and why you chose that concentration. And we'll go in order of your first name alphabetically. So who does that put first?
I think that's me.
That's great. All right, you're first. Go ahead.
All right. My name is Giancarlo Isadi, and I'm originally from Suffield, Connecticut, about an hour and a half away from Boston. I'm in the Carroll School. I'm a junior, studying operations management and information systems. And I think for me, pairing those two together was really great because on the operations side, I really enjoy the analytical aspect of the business and like running of the day-to-day operations and being able to help improve and like problem solve, which I've taken some really cool classes at BC that we can talk about after. But pairing that with information systems and the technology aspect of using the technology to solve the business problems and integrate that through the business has been a really cool experience for me, both in practice and my internships that I've had, as well as at the courses I've taken at BC.
Excellent, excellent. Great start. Who's next?
I think that's me.
That is you.
If I know my alphabet correctly, yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Jenny. I'm a senior. I study information systems as well, and also finance. I was born and raised in China. I went to high school in Georgia. And the reason for me choosing the two majors, right? I'm really quantitative, and when I was a freshman, I thought about being a math major. Tried out multivariable calculus and decided probably not math. But I was still interested in the quantitative field, so I took information systems. I'm very interested in the technology and took a really, really great course, which we can talk about later. So really liked the idea of combining technology and business, but without getting really, really like down into the weed of computer science, although there are still computer science requirements. And then for finance, I did an internship in very, very traditional accounting role and didn't really enjoy it, but definitely found interest in my finance classes, so decided to go with that.
Okay, makes sense to me. Excellent. Who's next?
That's me. Hi guys, my name's Nikki Kearney. I'm originally from Redding, Connecticut, so the opposite side of the state as Giancarlo, closer to New York City. I'm a junior in the Carroll School of Management. I'm studying marketing and managing for social impact. And I kind of came to those majors initially, kind of started with both my parents being accountants and kind of the opposite of Jenny, knowing that that quant heavy side of business is not really what I saw myself doing, just especially seeing it through what my parents did day to day kind of verified that that's not exactly what I wanted to do. Even though I knew like math wasn't my worst class, I actually enjoyed it, but I didn't want to spend my life behind a desk working on financial statements. So I wanted somewhere where I could have something where I could have a little bit more of a creative outlet. So it seemed like marketing was the most applicable for that. So that's what I came in initially. And the managing for social impact, it's a co-concentration that's relatively new. So I didn't know too much about it until I got here, but then I started asking around some peers, and it seemed like that's where more of my social values and just like my values as a person are aligned ethically. So I kind of tacked that on, and we can talk more about how CSOM really just has, CSOM being the business school, has really from the get-go emphasized the importance of being an ethical and mindful business person, and that's really just what managing for social impact is in its essence.
Well done. Thank you, Nikki. Nolan.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Nolan Constantine, and I'm a junior in the Carroll School of Management. I'm from Wilmington, Delaware, and I'm concentrating in accounting and information systems. And then I have a minor in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences and philosophy. The way I picked accounting, that's what I had coming in was I actually come from like a long line of accountants, I guess. My dad was an accountant, and I had two older brothers, and both of them are now accountants as well. So I just kind of thought I might like it. And then after taking my first couple accounting classes, I really enjoyed it. I had some great teachers like Ed Taylor and Betty Bagnani, and I thought they were both really good teachers and set me on the right path. So after that, I decided to stick with accounting. And then information systems, coming in, I wasn't declared as that, but I had a really good teacher for the first class, digital technologies, and he convinced me to add that on as well. It's only, I think, 4 or 5 extra classes. And then philosophy, similar thing. I took my philosophy core classes freshman year. I took a class called Perspectives, and then I just love my teacher, so kind of convinced me to pick up that minor as well.
So that almost knocks out one of the routine questions we get about the Carroll School of Management. Can you have a minor or even a major in one of the other areas? And the arts and sciences is the most popular one, and you've already covered that, Nolan. So there you go. We can go into other questions about it, but you've knocked that one out right away. That's fantastic. Can a couple of you take me back to your search for college all those years ago? Were you looking for a business school particularly? And what were the things that you were looking for that BC had that beat out the other places and got you to Boston College?
I can start. So I was looking for a school that definitely had a business program. I looked at some schools that were strictly business schools. And the more that I went along my search, I realized that I kind of came to this realization somewhere along the way that at the caliber of schools like BC, I knew that no matter what school I ended up going to, I was going to get a great job. And so that initial fear of like, oh, I need to go to the best ranked in order to get the best job, I kind of stopped thinking. I started thinking less and less about that and more about all the other aspects of my education. And I started to find that the more business driven, the schools that were more strictly business driven, funneling you right into a job, the less attracted to those kinds of schools I was. And I was more attracted to schools that were really focused on educating me as a whole person, which is one of our mottos, Cura Personalis. I saw who I was in high school was very far from the person that I knew I wanted to be by the end of my college education. And so I was really looking for a school that was going to educate me outside of just the business world, because like I said, I knew that, and for all of everyone that's tuning in too, you're going to be fine in terms of a job no matter where you go. So it really comes down to all of the other aspects of who you want to become outside of just a job. And I felt like BC was the place where I was going to be able to thrive and grow the most and be challenged the most.
That's great. Anybody else want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, that was a great answer, Nikki, but anybody else, what they were looking for, either specifics about a business program or bigger picture things like Nikki was talking about. Tell us a little bit about your search.
I can speak. I 100% agree with everything Nikki just said. I also wanted to do a business program, but at the same time, I definitely want a liberal art foundation. I want more than just like a business school, like all the finance classes, which are great. But at the end of the day, you know, when I was 18, I was like, man, like philosophy class, right? That's what college sounds like, right? That's what at least what I was thinking when I was 18. Like that definitely sounds like a college experience. And I remember when I toured BC, I stood on the quad. If you've seen BC, Fulton, the business school buildings on one side and Gadsden's on the other side. And I stood there, I was like, wow, this is very amazing. Like on one hand, you have this very like Gothic Jesuit looking architecture you just cannot ignore. Like this is definitely a Jesuit institution. But on the other hand, like you see the business school right across from that. And I just thought that's a such interesting combination. And it was true through my time here. I ended up doing a lot more with social impact, like through different organizations and like volunteering and stuff like that. So so that's part of it. And the other part is more, I don't know, like the gut feeling. When I went to the information session, I really liked the experience with talking to student panel. And that to me signals, I don't know, like when I was 18, I was like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't have to listen to an admission officer talk for the entire hour. No offense, but the more of like, I appreciated the opportunity of connecting with current students. And I also appreciate how open BC is about just let the students share the student life rather than like having a presentation and talk about it.
I mean, you don't mind that I'm at least asking a few questions, Jenny, do you? I mean, I want to participate somehow. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That's nice of you. So both of you kind of hit on something that certainly differentiates BC's business program from other ones, is that there's a core curriculum at Boston College. It's not, isn't it nice that there's a philosophy department? It's you will take, all four of you have to take philosophy to graduate Boston College. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Can you talk about, and you've all alluded to it, but are there specifics about how that core curriculum will make you better at studying business, will make you better at what it is that you want to get out of your college degree? You've all kind of alluded to it, but because there are some people that might be admitted to business schools that don't have to take these classes, philosophy, theology, history, etc., why is that really beneficial?
I can start with this one. I think the core curriculum at Boston College really adds a whole new element to a business education. And I think it helps you to look at the world in a much different way than if you were to only be taking business classes. I think I specifically saw this in my perspectives class freshman year, looking at things like different like social justice issues and even things from basic like Christian theology, looking at the Bible. And you can kind of take a look at those things and put an ethics view on them. And the way that BC really focuses on pushing you outside of your comfort zone. I think coming from a smaller high school, I never took really theology or philosophy classes. And I think that taking those types of classes pushed me to look at my business education that I thought I was going to focus so much on, and push me outside of that comfort zone that I really had. And I think looking at the other side of that, the Carroll School of Management also has its own core, so more of a liberal arts approach to the business education. I think that that was really attractive to me, that I wasn't just going to be going into the business school and say, I want to do finance and only take finance classes. We have about 12 classes that you would have to take coming into the Carroll School. And I think that that's super amazing because additionally, it pushes you outside of your comfort zone in the business school. And I think I never would have voluntarily taken information systems or probably operations management classes. And I think that once you're kind of forced to learn more about those subjects and put your knowledge to the test, that you'd really be surprised how much you learn and what you're really interested in.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that too. I think one other thing that I've appreciated about the core curriculum is these core renewal classes that BC ended up creating. I think it was like 5 years ago. And these classes are interdisciplinary and often focus on pretty like modern day issues. So the one that I took was called the History and Politics of Terrorism. So it was history and a political science class. And I think that was just really cool because it's not necessarily like you're taking like a stereotypical like dry history class. Like you're really learning about an interesting issue that not many people really have the opportunity to learn much about. And also I think it's important to realize that like the business world operates within our world too, as a whole. So taking a class on climate change, I know there's a core renewal class on that. That's really helpful for going forward. Like how will the economy change? So I think it really does give you more skills, and it can pretty easily be applied to business. But I think just outside of business too, it's cool to learn about those issues and just become a more global citizen.
Now, I know the advisors and the people that you trust in the administration of the Carroll School, people like Amy Lacombe and Erica Graff and Sarah Nunziata, even Ethan Sullivan. Can you talk about the people that help you with decisions, advising, when you have to make a big decision about curriculum choices? Who are the people you see? How easy is it to get advice and help in terms of picking the courses the right way?
I could start with this one. I think having the subset of the Carroll School is really amazing, having that much smaller feel. Each class has about 500 or so students in the Carroll School, and I think it really provides for a much smaller feel, especially when you're trying to reach out to advisors and professors. Starting off freshman year, academic advisors, your Portico professor, who all first year students would be taking in their first semester. And I think that meeting in a class of about 18 people once or twice a week for the whole first semester, you really gain a pretty powerful relationship with the person who's your academic advisor, also on a personal level. So I remember going freshman year into my professor's office hours once or twice a week just to talk and make sure that I was going through things right. And I think she really helped to calm my nerves. And even going through the next few years, the Carroll School also has their own career center, which is amazingly helpful. And I think I was studying abroad last semester, and it didn't even feel like I was abroad because I was emailing back and forth with some of the deans and our career advisors about helping me with my resume and cover letters and applying to jobs. I think that was one of the greatest experiences that I've had working with our Carroll School staff.
No, I'd like, oh, go ahead, Jenny.
Okay. I also just want to add, for the Carroll School, there's this great initiative where you can take a professor home, which is you can invite a bunch of your friends and then you can take a professor for dinner, and the school will reimburse you up to $100 for the dinner, which is pretty sweet. And so I feel I was able to get to know a lot of professors in a more casual setting, although I do go to their office hours a lot as well. And I think sometimes it genuinely amazes me how willing professors are to go out of their ways to like help me with different things. For me as an international student, I have some legal paperwork to like go through every single time when I have an internship in the summer. And my professor was like, okay, I'll do whatever it takes to make them be happy and like make you get this authorization. And that's just like, like I am very, very grateful for that.
Giancarlo, you explained Portico. No, you talked about Portico. Can one of you explain what that class is?
Yeah,
I can definitely.
Go ahead, Nikki.
I can definitely talk about it. So as Giancarlo mentioned, Portico is an introductory seminar style class for all first year freshmen that everyone that's enrolled in the Carroll School of Management will take it your first semester freshman year. So you start with that business education right off the bat. There's like, unlike other schools, we're not waiting till junior year to start, which I really liked. You hit the ground running, and you don't hit the ground running in terms of, oh, you're thrown into finance and accounting 101. You start with Portico is a business ethics course. So it's really a testament to the Boston College Jesuit education that we're starting out with a foundation in how to be those good men and women for others in a business world that's usually very capitalist driven. And so your Portico professor, as Giancarlo mentioned, will also serve as your faculty advisor for your freshman year, which is great because you get to have that relationship both in and outside the classroom. And so they will be there. And they every Friday, I had Dean Sullivan as my professor, as did Nolan, and he would do every Friday, we would have a 5-minute examine, which pretty much every Portico professor does. And what that is they'd walk you through just 5 minutes of journaling. A lot of times they'll put on reflective music, and you'll just sit and just reflect for a few minutes on your week, personally, professionally, anything that you're going through. And then you have a little bit of a discussion about it. And then the professors are always eager to keep that conversation going and get you into their office outside of just the classroom. And we covered tons of cases of different like social impact kind of things. And really that's the course that drove me to end up tacking on that managing for social impact concentration. And you really learn everything kind of in the foundations of business, good presentation skills to how to analyze cases and companies and decisions, and really anything in between. So it's a great foundation to business, and a really good stepping stone into the rest of the Carroll School core.
Well, people ask a lot about the atmosphere in the business school. Is it competitive? There's this feeling that everyone is ambitious and everyone's searching out the highest paying job and the most impactful career path. But you just talked about 18 people doing case studies and group work together. So is it a very competitive vibe in the Carroll School, or do you find it it's much more collaborative, and a lot of courses, marketing courses, other courses may just lend themselves to a lot of group work more than people may think from the outside?
I can answer that. Yeah, I think that it is a more collaborative environment. I haven't found any cases during my 3 years where I feel like people are trying to put me down at all. I do think, people in the school are motivated and pretty competitive naturally, but I feel like Nikki kind of mentioned earlier, I feel like we all have a pretty good sense that we're all getting a good education and feel pretty secure about life after graduation and getting a job. So it's not necessarily like competing for a specific job. It's more kind of just competing alongside each other, and helping each other be the best people we can be. That's one thing that I've really liked about my classes, is that I feel like they've really followed me outside of the classroom a lot more than in high school. So if I might learn about something really interesting in class, and I feel it feels very natural to just go back to my dorm and talk about it with my roommates for a while. And I think that's pretty common among my friend group. So I think we all kind of do work together and try and help each other be the best students we can be. But I definitely don't think it's super cutthroat. I've really enjoyed like getting to know my classmates and working in group projects. Some of those are some like the more fun memories that I have at BC, just working on something together with my classmates.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about faculty in particular? Do you feel that the faculty in the Carroll School are all from industry, or are they all academics, meaning they're all book writers and theorists, theoretical economists? Is it a mix? What have you found in your careers in the Carroll School in terms of the credentials of the faculty that you've known of?
I would say it's a pretty good mix, and I think that that's super beneficial to me. Looking back, my Portico professor, as we talked about, she actually had her PhD in philosophy and really had little business experience, and I think that helped a lot in the sense that she was able to relate her business knowledge more so to the ethical side of things. And then I think if you look on the other side of that, people who have a lot of industry experience, my marketing professor that I have right now, she used to work at Bose, and she probably brings up her experience at Bose every time. And I think it reminds me a lot of times in class that the things that we're learning in the classroom are things that are happening outside in the real world. And these are discussions that are happening in meetings every day. And it really helps me to make that connection between my internship experience and work after college with what we're learning.
Yeah, and just to tack on to that, last semester I took a strategic brand management class, which is a marketing elective. And my professor for that class has been my favorite professor at BC. His name is John Fisher. He's the former CEO of Saucony Shoes, or running shoe company, that he sold to Stride Rite for millions and millions of dollars, and was very successful in that company before he pivoted to creating his own branding consulting firm about 10 years ago or so, and also became a professor at BC. And he's an incredibly huge BC sports fan and brings that into the classroom constantly, and just has infinite amount of industry knowledge with this very successful brand. And he has tons of connections. As someone who's going into the retail industry, it was incredible to get to know him and form a relationship with him, just to have more of a larger network. Like, he came in one day and was like, I had dinner last night with the CMO of Nike, and we're all like, okay, that's casual. So he had so much to bring into the classroom. But then I have tons of other professors too. Like, one professor I have in customer research right now, I have no idea really what her background is. Like, it's not something that she brings into the classroom constantly like he did, but I know that she's an incredible person who literally just today, this sounds like it's scripted, but 2 hours ago I opened a package from her with a little like finals care package that she sent to all of us. And she's just an incredibly kind person and never ceases to amaze all of us. Just like, she's an incredible professor and incredible friend too.
Those are great stories, and I think that hits the mark. Can you believe that we've spoken 30 minutes about the Carroll School of Management and didn't talk about internships or career services or jobs? Because usually that's the thing that people make the most direct connection, right? Is that the other 75% of the people at BC, who knows what they're going to do for the rest of their lives? You guys have a plan, because that's part of the business school. Now, that's an oversimplification, and certainly there are students all over Boston College that have a plan. But I do think it was alluded to a couple times about CSOM's particular career resources, and certainly the kind of attention that employers give our students and graduates. But if a couple of you can talk a little bit about the professional resources and what you've taken advantage of, whether that's the internship process, whether that's career advising, whether that's alumni networking, if you can talk a little bit about what you've been able to take advantage of.
I'll start.
You better start. You're the senior, Jenny. Everyone's very curious to see what the plan could have been, would have been, is.
Right. So I've interned at Deloitte for all 3 summers, and then I'm going back to Deloitte San Francisco for analytics advisory. Obviously, I was hoping I could go there and see apartments during the Easter break, but given this current situation, I don't know about that. However, yeah, I will be going there. And I also want to emphasize, I feel the entire time at BC, there are definitely enough resources, either the people or people who are willing to like introduce you to other people, like all of that. But that's like, I think over and over, I would always get a message of making sure I'm really doing what I like to do. I think everybody, like, you know, when I go to someone and be like, oh, I'm thinking of this, I need help on that, they would first say, do you really want it? Like, make sure you have a good reason to do it, and then I'll help you like 100% to help you get there. For me personally, I think it was very helpful with the Eagles link. So it's an internal posting website where you can see just a lot of events or sometimes positions open that companies list. It's internal to BC students. And so I was able to get a lot of information on that. And plus, it's really hard to ignore their presence because they are here very, very often. And like, I really mean it. They are here very often. It's very funny. My roommate kept losing water bottles like during the entire college 4 years. And every time I'm like, no, don't buy a new one. Like, I'm sure somebody's going to come with a stand and like a bunch of free giveaways, and they're for sure going to be water bottles. So like, don't buy a new one. I'll get one for you. And they're just here very often. And I think it's a pretty organic way just to talk to the recruiter and just get a sense of what's the company about. And sometimes they have professionals or recent BC graduate alumni to come back and just tell you about their daily life, like work life. So that's pretty cool. Also, I'm not going to like steal all the thunder, but BC alumni is very, very willing to connect. So I took a class, that's a field trip class to San Francisco, my sophomore year, second semester. And then for the summer, I went back there to intern. And then I reached out to an alumni and met at that class. And every single person like responded like, oh yeah, sure. And I also reached out to people I didn't meet, but like on the LinkedIn, it showed up as like mutual friends or like people you might know, stuff like that. So I also reached out, and literally like everybody, like as long as he or she is not going to have a baby anytime soon, like they all said yes, let's meet up. And there was one alumni even like took a call when she was on a family vacation. I was like, what? Like you're out on a vacation with your kids. Like why are you like talking to me on the phone? But still, like I literally did not expect. They were really willing to set the time and talk to me.
That's a very thorough answer. Maybe there's other parts of it that can be explored with the other three of you.
Yeah, sure. One other thing I think is worth mentioning is just the work of the different departments and CSOM as a whole to just get information out to us. So every Sunday at 8 p.m., we get an email, this week in CSOM, and it lays out what's coming up in CSOM for the next week, like which recruiters are coming to campus, what workshops are going on throughout the week, all these different things. So you really stay pretty well informed all throughout your time at BC. And I think it's definitely worth it, even as freshmen and sophomores when you're younger, to go to these events just to have some familiar faces with the people at the companies and just learn a little bit more about what you might want to do after graduation. And then even the departments themselves will send out similar emails. There's like the marketing academy, accounting academy, pretty much all different types of academies or societies. And they typically will send out emails about deadlines for applications, for jobs or internships too. So I definitely have felt very well prepared all throughout my time at BC. And also being close to Boston is really a big bonus, just because if you do need to go to the office for some reason, for an interview or something, it's really accessible. You can get there easily. And I had some fun days, like dressing up and going to the office for information sessions. But it is nice too, because typically recruiters will come to campus to talk to us. And when I was interviewing last year for my internship for this summer, all those interviews took place right on campus in the Career Center, which was like a 2-minute walk from my dorm. So it was very convenient.
And you all had an internship, correct? And that's generally the case. It's 100%. It's almost silly to mention the statistic because it's so much part of what you guys want to practice after being in the classroom for so long, and what your teachers want you to experience to make sure that it's something fulfilling, like you, Jenny, you said, and Nikki, you said as well. So that makes a lot of sense. And Nolan, you mentioned something that I did think it was worth mentioning at some point, is being close to Boston certainly has its advantages. I studying business, I suppose, out in the rural hinterlands could be fine, but if you're in and around a city, that certainly has some advantages to study business. I would think so too. All right, so we're getting down towards, we have a few more minutes left, and I wanted to hear a little bit about some of the organizations, clubs, and experience that people can have if they're also studying business at Boston College. Are there publications? Are there teams? Are there honor societies? What are the kind of things that students who are interested in business can also participate in their time in the Carroll School?
Yeah, so I can start. So a few years ago, Boston College no longer has any honors programs across any of our undergraduate divisions, but the Carroll School turned their honors program into a club called the Fulton Leadership Society. So it's kind of an offspring of it. They're absolutely not the same, but there's a lot of the same sentiment that's carried through, and a lot of the same traditions. So Nolan and I are both members of the Fulton Leadership Society. It's kind of a pre-professional and social club. So a lot of the events are worked. Usually we would start in the summer before all the freshmen come, but who knows what that'll look like this year. Hopefully that'll still be able to happen, but kick off with some social events just to bond and get to know one another, barbecues and creating mentorship families and things like that. And then throughout the year, we have a range of different events for freshmen. There'd be weekly meetings called formation meetings every night. And this is a program that you can apply into, and you go through an application process once you're here on campus. So nothing you need to worry about before you step foot on campus. And so really it's just helping you work, like for myself coming in, having not ever had business experience in a classroom or anything like that, really just help you with anything from networking, resume building, figuring out where you want to go. There's so many different avenues within business just to help you personally and professionally develop, basically. And one of the biggest things is the mentorship program that exists in a lot of clubs across BC too. I know John Carlo's in CAB and Kim probably talks about that. They have a great mentorship program, really just ensuring that, especially coming in as freshmen, you feel supported both in and outside the classroom. So maybe Nolan, you want to tack onto that too, because there's tons we could talk about there. But.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm a fan of the Fulton Leadership Society. It's definitely a really fun group of people, and I think good for networking and whatnot too. But some other just clubs that come to mind, Women in Business, they put on some cool events. And then there's like Girls Who Code is another one. There's a couple other leadership societies, like the Jenks Leadership Society. And another one that's more specific for investment banking, there's an investment banking sales and trading club. And they, during, I think it's sophomore year, you meet, I think, weekly, and they present on basically preparing you for those internships and for all the hard work that goes into recruiting for that. And I know one of my close friends, Ryan, was in that club, and he felt really prepared for when he was studying for his interviews for investment banking. And then I think that also is leading up to Bank Week too, which is another thing that BC puts on in order to help students more interested in investment banking.
Go ahead, Jenny.
I'm involved in a club called Consultants for Social Impact, and we're basically a student consulting club, and we work with nonprofits. And so in the past, I've had the opportunity to work on analytics projects for a food residue company, where we kind of mapped out their like distribution network on a map against the food desert in Massachusetts to see like how they're really addressing the people who are really in need of food security. This year, we've been working with an autism organization. And for those, I feel like it is very cool for me to have some hands-on consulting experience, but also it's very rewarding and very empowering at the same time for me to feel that even as an undergrad business student, like I am legitimately making some impact, not only just within the BC bubble, but also like in a greater community outside BC. So that I thought is pretty cool. Also, I want to mention the Shea Center for Entrepreneurship. So if you're thinking about starting your own business, that's definitely a great place to go. They have workshops and venture competitions, or also lunch speaker events, stuff like that. So it does expose you to the whole ecosystem of like the startups, from, you know, if you have an idea to sometimes, you know, you can go, like you as a startup founder can go to the startup fair, try to recruit talent within BC. And of course, like there's elevator pitch and the venture competition. So also pretty cool.
Now, someone asked the question about being able to balance some of the demands of a business student with other things, like being a college student, going to games and going into Boston and doing things with your friends. I mean, you just rattled off about 10 different things in your resume, and all of you guys have huge resumes. That's not necessarily a problem. I mean, maybe it takes some time to find your individual balance and time mechanics, but in general, these things can all happen in someone's career at BC. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I can answer this one. I think all of the students at Boston College have a pretty like rigorous workload, regardless of what major concentration you're working in. So I think every student at Boston College needs to find that balance. But at the same time, you'll see the majority of our students are involved in some way, whether it be a service organization, service trips that they go on, event planning committees, cultural clubs. And I think that really adds a lot to the Boston College experience. And for me, that's been some of the greatest experiences that I've had, and the friends that I've made in those clubs. As Nikki mentioned, I'm a part of the campus activities board. we plan about 100 events on and off campus, whether it be Red Sox games, we have homecoming balls, to small movie night events on campus. And because we don't have any fraternities or sororities on campus, I think a lot of that whole where other campuses have mentorship for first year students is where the clubs really fill in there. Specifically for the campus activities board, we have a group called the mentorship programming team, which takes a small group of first year students and really prepares them for leadership experiences and event planning skills, to really have that mentorship with upperclassmen. I think that really helped me to gain so much experience. Even though you might say it's just for like event planning, it's technically not a Carroll School club. I've learned so much about interviewing, professional public speaking, as well as contacting outside vendors on behalf of the university. And you definitely have to be very professional in that sense. So I think it's very worthwhile to participate in clubs outside of like the academic realm as well, to meet people of different majors who have different experiences, but similar interests.
A question came in, Nikki, you touched on a little bit, but maybe talk about a larger percentage of your Carroll School courses. Are they more case study approaches? Are they more lecture style? Are they more discussion and seminar based? How would you describe what your classes have been like?
Yeah, so on average, like BC overall, the average class size is 27. Within CSUM, it's definitely a little bit lower. And you can feel that in the kind of style of most of the classes too. I would say I haven't had a single like large lecture class that's in the Carroll School. I have had them because of my other my Boston College core classes, like my social science core, for example. But within the business school, they're very, very commonly less than 20, most are less than 30. And I would say depending on the course, they're case study based, but even if it's not 100% case study, it's a lot of working in groups, collaboration, kind of trying to mimic where possible what a business environment might look like in the real world when you're on a job. So for example, yesterday, even digitally, I was in my organizational behavior class and we were learning about persuasion. So he had us break off into pairs and breakout rooms, which we were going to do in person or online. And one of us was a person trying to negotiate a job offer, and the other person was the hiring manager. So they're trying to negotiate all these different 8 points we had to negotiate. And we had like half of the class, we had like 30 something minutes to prepare. And so just like that, professors are, regardless of the circumstances, even though we're online still right now, they're really trying to help you with real world skills in whatever different learning environments that might look like. So case studies, one-on-one, sometimes it requires lecture, but usually it's not the entirety of the class.
Last question, and it has to be like elevator pitch format, Jenny, like 15 seconds. As many of the viewers are going to be at Boston College in the Carroll School, some haven't made that decision yet, but they very likely will. Others have already made that decision. What's the best decision they can make? Tell them something that they should do, or some mistake that they shouldn't make that you made. So give them a little piece of advice, just a quick hit, a teacher to get, a class to take, a group to join. Give them a little piece of information for their entrance and their career in the Carroll School. And we'll go in reverse of the order that we started. So we'll start with you, Nolan.
Okay, I would say try and take a class with Professor Wesner if you can, or any class in the business law department beyond just the basic level business law class. I took a class called Law and Economics, and you learn about some really cool issues like, I don't know, all different sorts of things that I really loved taking. So I would say take that.
Good one, Nikki.
Go to the career fair in the fall, even as a freshman. That's what I did, and I didn't get an offer out of it, but I went to get like FaceTime with recruiters and get my feet wet because I had never before seen a recruiter, talk to a recruiter, anything like that. So really just start to gain exposure and like get introduced to that whole externship job world as a freshman.
Okay, Jenny, how about you?
I was just about to say that. I was going to say everyone is on time in their own time zone. Some people may not find like what they want to study until like the beginning of junior year, whereas some other people know exactly what they wanted to do their freshman year. But regardless, I think we will all get to the place where we want to be at our own pace. And I was going to say, and that also means you're never too young or too early for anything. Just because you're a freshman doesn't mean you can't go to the career fair. Just because you haven't taken a like major required classes doesn't mean you don't have the skill to do an internship. So yeah.
That's fantastic wisdom. Giancarlo?
I would say definitely join clubs, but I think one thing for me would be to be as open-minded as you can, and definitely be open-minded to different concentrations, different classes. If a friend says, hey, want to come to this meeting and see what this club's about, try and say yes as much as possible when it comes to experiencing new things. And I think it'll open up a lot of new opportunities for you.
Great advice, all. That's fantastic. Well, it's hard to believe that our time is up. We were just, this is the most normal part of my day, talking about life at Boston College. Maybe it was for you guys too. Jenny, this is it for us. You're moving on to someplace else. You're welcome to come back to BC at any time. And thank you for all the stuff you've done in the student admissions program. We'll miss you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're
I'm definitely
welcome.
excited for the campus commencement in October. So.
Yes, that'll be fun, Columbus Day weekend. The three of you,
Yeah.
we miss all of you guys. We can't wait for you to come back to campus. Hopefully that'll be very soon. And for all of you viewing tonight, hopefully we get to welcome you to campus soon. We do have a few more programs as the month winds down. Tomorrow is BC and the Performing Arts. Next week we have a program on study abroad, a program on community service opportunities, and then on April 30th, the last night before you make a decision, a program with last minute questions that should be pretty entertaining. Hopefully you found this helpful. It's also recorded, so you should be able to access it for the next couple of weeks to come. To my panel, thanks so much. Again,
Thanks, Chris.
we really love seeing you guys. Thanks for all the great wisdom. Thanks for joining us. And this is a good night. We'll see you soon. Good night, everybody. Thanks, guys.